Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. This video is part of the YouTube series that I'm making called Zero to Hero Business Central. In this series, I already uploaded few videos on my YouTube channel. In this particular video, we are going to learn about collectible errors in Business Central. For example, whenever an error occurs in Business Central, basically the process gets stopped at that particular error message. But what if, let's say, I wanted to collect multiple errors and I wanted to show to the user all the errors at once? Basically, we can do that by collecting errors. Normally, when an error occurs in a procedure, the procedure stops on the first error it meets. Using collectible errors essentially postpones error handling to the end of the procedure call. So basically, what we can do is by using collectible errors, we can basically collect those errors and basically postpone how the error is shown to the user. Basically, we can collect all the errors and we can basically show them to the user at once. AL code execution doesn't stop on errors, but instead it continues until the end and gathers all errors as they occur. So, whenever we use collectible errors, it is not going to stop the execution of the AL code, but rather collects all the errors and shows all of the errors at once to the user. So let us actually see that in action in code so that we can have a better understanding of what this collectible error is. Here you can see I am on the page employee list. So what we are going to do is we are going to actually create one action button on the employee list under processing area, and we are going to actually write all our code. So let me actually go to my Visual Studio Code. In here you can see I am currently in the employee operations code unit, but we are going to write our code in the employee list page. So the employee list page is basically called as employee page, and in here I am already at a place where I can actually create my action button. So it is area processing. So let me actually create one action button over here called the action, and let's just call this as collectible errors. And let me actually say war employee ops, because we are going to create our procedure in the employee operations where we are going to write our code related to collectible errors. So let's just say employee operations, and let me actually go to employee operations code unit. And in here you can see I am currently in the employee operations code unit, but let me navigate to the end so that I can actually write my code over here. So I am currently over here, and let's actually write the code. Internal procedure collectible errors, and let me do begin and end. And whenever you wanted to create collectible errors, you need to actually make the error behavior as collectible. So basically on collectible errors, we need to provide an attribute called collectible errors that can be done by writing the code like this: error behavior, then we can say error behavior, then collect. So basically now this collectible errors actually collects all the errors and shows them at the end once we collect all the errors. So let us actually do that. Let me actually create okay, let me not do that over here. Let's actually create our own procedures to give the error messages. Say first error message, and let me do begin and end. Just do this, and let's actually give a let's actually create var, let's say var error info, and let's say error info, and let's just do this. Say var error info, var error info equals to error info dot create. As we have seen in our previous videos related to error info, in this video we are just using that variable of type error info, and we are creating the error info variable. So in here if you see, error info basically creates a new error info object with collectible set to 2. So whenever we are doing this one, it is basically going to create an object and we are storing that object in the var error info. And now let's actually do this var error info, and let's give a error message saying this is first error message. And let me do this, and let's say now error and var error info. So basically what we are doing is we are creating one variable of type error info, and we're creating the object and we are storing that object over here, and we are giving the error message as this is a first error message. And let's actually call this procedure from here, and let's do this. And now let me actually create one more procedure, and let's call that as second error message. And let me call this again from here. And now let me just say this is second error message. So now basically we have set this procedure as collectible error procedure, and we are basically calling these two procedures from this particular procedure. So whenever an error occurs, let us understand what basically happens. So let me go to here and let me actually explain what happens whenever an error occurs. So let's say we have this error info, right? These are the objects that I have created in my procedures over here. This is the first error info object that I created, and this is the second error info object that I created. And in here we are giving the error message, and in here also we are giving the error message. So in collectible errors, this is the base procedure which is calling these two procedures, first error message and second error message. So basically now let us understand what happens whenever an error occurs. So basically let me create a list. So the system will create a list of error info in the backend. Let's say currently, let's say there are three error infos, and it is whenever an error occurs, it is going to store the error info inside this particular list. So let's say the first error occurs, so it is going to store that first error in the first uh, index in the list, and when the second error occurs, it is going to store that second error in the second index, and when the third error occurs, it is going to store that in the third index. So basically it is going to create a list of error info. So in here, when the first error occurs, it is going to store that in the list of error info at the first place, and when the second error occurs, it is going to store that in the list of second index. So let me actually go in here. Let me just do if has collected errors. So when we created the error info, basically we set that collectible set to true. So this variable is now true, has collected errors, because we are collecting those errors. And let's just say if then, and now as I said, whenever an error occurs, it is going to store that in a list of error info. So let me actually traverse through that error info. So I basically need one error info. Let's call this as var error info, and let's say error info. And now let me actually do the for each loop inside this for each var error info in. So now I wanted to actually access the list of error info. So I can do that by just saying system dot get collected errors. So basically this is going to be returning a list of error info where we basically stored all the error info errors that occurred during the process. So now it is going to return us all the list of error infos, and we are going to actually traverse through them by using the for each loop. Now let me actually do, and let's actually say message, sorry, message. And now this message, and now it's var error info dot call stack. So basically I wanted to see the call stack where exactly the error occurred. So let me actually go to my employee page, and in here let me actually call that procedure called, sorry, control Z, the what is the procedure name? The procedure name is collectible errors. So let me go in here and let's just say collectible errors. And now let me actually publish this and let us see how it actually looks in the UI by using the collectible errors. Let me go to my business central now. Let me refresh this once. And now let me actually click on collectible errors. Now here you can see we are getting the first error message, which is over here. Sorry, it is not a error message, but it's a simple message for the call stack for the first error message that we got. So the first error message that we got is over here. Let's see, first error message. And if I do okay, it is going to show me the second error message because we are traversing through the list, and the list basically has two error infos. The first one is this, the second one is this. So we are basically traversing through the list, and when we are at the second error info, it basically going to show us the second error info call stack. So if I go into business central, here you can see the error occurred at second error message. Now, if I click on OK, it says multiple errors occurred during the operation first. So it is going to say what are the errors that are occurred during the process. If I click OK, and let's say I wanted to show these errors to the user on the user interface, I can do that by just inserting these error messages into the table error message temporary, and after that I can show that to the user. Let me actually create that over here. Now let's say error. I can say like a record error message. This is the one that I need. Then I can do temporary because I don't want to store this in the database. I can do begin and end, and let's just say first error dot id. Just take the id error dot id plus one, and now let's say error dot, do we have message? Yeah, we have message. Let's say var error info dot message, and now let's actually do the error dot insert semicolon expected, that is over here. So let me do this, and now let me actually clear all the collected errors. Basically this is going to clear the list, but we are not going to have any problem with that because we have inserted that to our table, which is error table. Now let's actually call the page dot run model, and let's see what it takes. It basically takes the number, and okay, now let's actually call the page, which is error messages, and let's pass this as a parameter over here. Let's just take this and let me pass it over here, and let's just do this and let us see how that actually looks in the UI. Basically we are going to show all the error messages that are stored in this particular table error. So let me go to my business central, let me refresh this once, and now let me actually click on collectible errors. Basically here you can see it has now shown us the error messages page, but with the collected errors, which are this is the first message because it occurred firstly, and this is the second error message because it occurred second time. Basically we are doing that by collecting those errors in the list of error info, and we are actually taking them by get collected errors. So it is going to return us the list of error info. We are traversing through each error info and we are inserting that into the table error, and we are running this particular page. So that's all that I have about collectible errors in Business Central. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll be uploading more videos in this particular series called Zero to Hero Business Central. If you don't want to miss them, you should definitely consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you.